So, about a month or two ago, my friend Shini and I decided we were gonna do this kind of like sketchbook art trade swap with each other, where basically we each picked out a sketchbook that we wanted for ourselves, and the other person decorated the cover as well as filled out a couple of spreads within the sketchbook of just art swatches, etc., whatever we wanted to put inside, and then we shipped them back to each other. So the sketchbook that Shini ended up picking out was one of the Stillman and Byrne. I actually forget which series it is, but it's one of the hardcover Stillman and Byrne sketchbooks. It's a fairly small size, but it was really enjoyable to work with. And of course, I got really excited about doing the cover because I've had a lot of fun painting the covers of my past two sketchbooks, and I wanted to try something a little bit different. For my last sketchbook, I did something fairly intricate with my Elo's sketchbook, that's the one it was, and I really liked how that turned out, so I kind of wanted to do something kind of similar to that, but I didn't want to go as detailed because this is a weird size constraint to work with, so I wanted to do something similar, but also not as detailed, pretty much. So I decided to do this really simple, like, sunset beach scene because Shini herself did ask like if I was going to do scenery and I didn't have any ideas, just like a beach scene would be pretty or like a sunset. So I decided that's what I would end up doing. I kind of knew the color scheme I wanted to go with. I wanted to have like a very pink pretty sunset, and then it turned into this very pastel, like almost primary color scene, just like a pastel version, and I really like how this ended up turning out. I did use a mixture of Apple Barrel, Craft Smart, and I had one Liquitex heavy body paint. So for the most part, I was working with really cheap paint, so it took me a really long time to layer it to the point where it was opaque color and you wouldn't be able to see the sketchbook below. So that was probably like my least favorite part about working with this piece. It just took a really long time for me to layer that, and then on top of that, even when it came to the sand, the color was lifting after a while, and I really had to work with it, and in the end you can still see some of the original sketchbook color peeking through, but as a whole it wasn't a huge deal. I also wanted to include a cat in this piece. That's what I ended up doing with my Elo sketchbook, and I really liked that just little pop of something I enjoy on there on top of the scenery. So initially I was going to include two cats is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do two cats on the beach walking next to each other, but after thumbnailing out what I wanted to do for this sketchbook cover, I decided that it was too small and I didn't want to have to work so small with a medium that I'm not super comfortable with, because if you follow my channel, if you've watched my videos, you probably know I'm not a huge fan of acrylic paints. I'm just not super comfortable with them, and it's just, it's a weird medium. And obviously I'm not working with any like professional acrylic paints by any means. Obviously these are really cheap aside from the one Liquitex that I have. These are really cheap acrylic paints and they don't work the best, but as a whole it's just not a medium that I'm interested in pursuing to like an extreme point, I would say. But I still really did enjoy working with this. It is nice to be able to do it on a sketchbook cover because I feel like it's very forgiving, although I feel intimidated by it at the same time. But like I said, I've had a lot of fun painting my past sketchbook covers and I've gotten kind of in the habit of it, so this was a very fun thing for me to do. And then towards the end I decided to try and add like a water texture in and just further render the piece, and while I'm not super comfortable painting water at all, I still felt like it looked really nice. It's obviously not the most realistic style by any means. I have a very stylized version of the way I make art, and I'm okay with that, but I do really like how this ended up turning out. After adding the outlines to the cat, I felt like that really pulled the piece together and made it look a lot better, and I really like how this turned out. I really like the colors. The thing I struggled with the most, aside from getting the paint to be opaque and just layered nicely, was probably trying to figure out how I wanted to render the sand on the beach, because even the finished version of it just kind of looks like a bunch of yellow towards the bottom, but as a whole I do think it was still really cute how it ended up turning out, and I'm glad that that's what I ended up doing for this piece. Like I said, it is really simple of a design, but I do like how it ended up turning out. I also went ahead and I added just some little dots of color here and there to kind of break up all the very undetailed spots, and I felt like it just needed something more going on, so I went ahead and I added some dots of color around the piece, and that just was like not necessarily sparkles, but I felt like it really helped bring color into places that there wasn't a huge variation of color. When it came to especially the sand and the sky, there wasn't like a whole lot of variation in color going on, so I felt like that really helped add something to it and make it look more like my art, because I know the cat was like a very me kind of thing to put in there, but I really liked adding the dots on there. I felt like that helped a lot. And then when I was peeling off the washi tape, there were a couple of spaces where the washi tape didn't completely protect the sketchbook, but that came off surprisingly easy with just like, I think I rubbed at it with some water and a paper towel, so that really helped tidy up the edge as a whole. And then, of course, like I did with my ELO sketchbook, I knew I did want to paint something on the back of the sketchbook, and I kept it very simple, just as I did with my ELO sketchbook, which was just like a tiny cat on the back. I decided to keep this one. It matches my ELO sketchbook a lot in terms of the theme of this one, but I decided to paint a little cat on the back, and sadly, I did not record a good portion of that process. I don't know what happened. I recorded this a while ago, so I don't really remember if I forgot to record or if it stopped recording, but we jump into pretty much the cat being completely painted on there, so I'm sorry about that. But like I did with the front of the cover, I decided to add just some dots on there just to bring more elements of the piece in it. When I did my ELO sketchbook, I added like leaves and stuff because the front of the sketchbook had like a forest scenery situation going on, but I didn't really know what I wanted to put in with this one. Originally, I was going to do the cat holding like a seashell or something like that, but I decided to just keep it very, very simple and paint a sleeping cat on the back and add little dots in there. And then the very last thing to do for me was to seal it. I use matte Mod Podge to seal all my sketchbook covers. That way nothing happens to them, especially since sketchbooks, the covers can go through a lot of wear and tear, so I always make sure to seal them whenever I do paint the cover of the sketchbook. That way I don't experience any chipping, flaking, scratching of the paint, because that is something that I don't really want to happen. So I always go ahead and I seal it with a couple coats of Mod Podge just to make sure that everything is safe and it's not going anywhere, and then let that dry for a good amount of time, and then that is it for the sketchbook cover painting. I really enjoyed doing this. This was a really cool trade to do because I got very attached to this sketchbook cover, but I know it's going to a good home, and I was really excited about sending this one off. Shini's already received the package. I painted this a really long time ago, but I was waiting to post it until she got it because she didn't know what I ended up doing with the cover, but it was so much fun to do, and I have a lot of fun painting sketchbook covers as a whole, so I definitely recommend you guys giving it a shot if you're comfortable painting sketchbook covers because it's a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.